What was that?
I said no one's leaving this room till I discover who murdered Walter Pierce.
But we know who did it.
Is that so? And how do we know, pray?
A woman is just standing there brandishing a gun.
And it's pointed directly at the victim.
I would hardly call that brandishing. Her hands are trembling.
I will not allow criticism of my verbs, Eric.
Word choice to one side. I prefer she put the pistol down.
I shall return it to my purse.
Oh, my Alice.
Might I have the weapon, Alice?
I'd like to keep it as a memento.
You are clearly overburdened by material possessions.
But clearly not overburdened with taste. That's hardly what I would call a handbag, Alice. More a carpet with straps. Oh.
What are you logging about?
Perhaps an infant child or a manuscript, but that's another play entirely.
Not more artillery, I hope.
I have only the one pistol.
Where did you acquire it, lass?
It belonged to Mr. Pierce.
My
Walter Pierce.
My painting! That Fade has shot my painting!
She should be rewarded.
Oh, it has been assassinated! Whoa!
Victoria, darling, exactly what did that painting represent? The recently deceased and I were musing over it earlier, and now he shall never know.
Hard cheese.
The idea appeared to me as if in a vision.
This is hardly the time to elucidate any of your obscure artistic endeavors, Miss Von Raff.
Van Roth. Listen, boy, there is one dead man in this room already.
Oh, and one dead painting.
Nothing would please me more than to increase the body count.
This is hardly the time to...
If you say, this is hardly the time. One more time, it will be the last time.
Let's have no more talk of killing. Got me hands full with the one.
That boy is deeply aggravating.
Political convictions invariably bring out the worst in people. It is why I am staunchly apolitical and shall remain so all my days.
Nonetheless, the worst in you still manages to surface.
Oh, Alice, please do not whimper. It annoys me.
Moreover, darling, having spent time in the presence of Mr. Pierce, I think we can all agree you had ample cause for murder.
Nothing be done about it now.
The obvious suspect is never guilty.
I shot him, I confess.
That cat won't fly, dearie.
Oh, but we caught her red-handed.
Does it matter who killed Walter Pierce? He's dead and gone. We mustn't let it ruin our weekend. Now, what say we play a parlor game?
Oh, that suggestion wants tact even for my taste, dear.
Perhaps we could restore him to life.
Oh, no!
Oh, rein it in, Alice.
I could call up a clairvoyant and she can conduct a seance. He'll be back on his feet in no time.
What is done cannot be undone.
What's that from, darling?
The Scottish play?
Which Scottish play? Surely there's more than one.
Are we sure that Walter Pierce is dead?
Oh, I am certain. I have seen countless actors played it in that exact position. Arms splayed, jaw agape. I am positive Mr. Walter Pierce has shuffled off his mortal coil.
The techniques involved in simulating death on stage must not replace medical diagnosis.
Simmer down, lad.
Perhaps Walter Pierce was a wonderful actor, pretending to be dead out of spite.
His interpretation of Wall was entirely convincing.
He was typecast.
And only marginally more stiff at present than when he was alive.
As the guilty party, I am eager for confirmation that the victim is, in fact, deceased.
I shall ring up a doctor. Hello? Hello? There's no operator.
The telephone wire's been severed. Oh, no!
Oh, we must get to a hospital at once.
Ever been to the infirmary in Cookham, lad? You enter with a splinter in one finger and walk out with one arm.
Then I'll bicycle to a police station and notify an inspector.
We won't be needing the coppers. Right, Bridget?
I'll solve the murder all by myself, I will. Just using me own intuition. Now try and stop me.
Oh, thus concludes discussion on the matter.
Bridget, when you stipulate that nobody leaves the room, Does that include the deceased? I don't fancy sharing the sofa with a cadaver.
Mustn't be tampering with the evidence, ma'am.
I find that comment extremely callous, Mrs. Bennet. A man is dead.
We may console ourselves with the knowledge that there is one less advocate against government funding of the arts.
He deserved to die for that alone.
Are you saying you killed him, miss?
A lot of people deserve to die. That one, for example, is ripe for extinction.
Each and every one of you had a reason for wanting Walter Pierce dead.
I most certainly did. He was extremely tiresome.
The old guard must fall.
Won't be missing him, that's for sure.
I am entirely indebted to whoever is responsible.
Oh, I take your point, Bridget. There is a chilling lack of sympathy in this room.
But wanting someone dead and actually killing them are two very different matters.
Two different matters for all but one of you.
It would be deceitful of me to say that I'm even slightly pained at the idea of having a inconvenient house guest eliminated conveniently.
Meaning you're the killer, Mrs. Beer?
Surely there are easier ways to rid oneself of such a guest.
Oh, I had some success with that recently after a reception. I played a gramophone record quite loud. It was Ethel Merman singing, "I've got rhythm." The guests fled as if the room were ablaze.
Murder is quicker.
Oh, but Miss Merman is within the parameters of the law,
Hi.
inexplicably.
I begged Walter Pierce to leave, but my radiance rendered him immobile.
It is truly an honor to meet you, Mrs. Bennet.
I imagine it must be.
You are almost legendary.
Almost!
What sort of cad discusses his illicit affairs with his own wife? It's no wonder she shot him dead.
If she shot him.
I am quite sure I did precisely that.
And my painting was the next victim in her vengeful spree.
That painting deserved to be slain.
Alice, hand me your pistol.
Leave it be. Now to the matter.
No one can fathom my agony. I shall translate my anguish into art.
I must hear in your own words what each and every one of you did when you left the room. It's time for a proper investigation.
How delightful!
Before we begin, might I have a spot of tea?
Oh, Alice, the sun is no longer wearing its hat. Join us in a cocktail, would you?
I must keep my wits about me.
I'll take care of it, love.
And a tumbler of milk, if I may.
Of course, back in a couple of jiffies.
Drinks, darling.
Brilliant.
A new piece is borning. I shall call it Lament Macabre.
Oh, it looks like a barrel of monkeys.
Alice, I see you're not wearing a wedding ring.
I hadn't noticed.
Oh, I say, Bridget, that's quite good.
The maid is psychic.
Out with it, lass. Are you married to Mr. Pierce or are you not?
Not?
But you said you were.
She said no such thing.
All of you rushed the fences and assumed we were married.
Oh, predictably, the pious Mr. Pierce was living in sin.
Walter Pierce must have driven her to the edge. She looks innocent as a dove.
Alice, you have a rather vague look about you, as if you've misplaced something.
I have very poor eyesight, Mrs. Bennet, but I feel it is imprudent for me to be seen in public wearing my spectacles.
Very wise. I'd sooner walk into walls than wear spectacles.
Men look distinguished in eyeglasses. Women look morose.
Are you suggesting that if a woman requires spectacles, she should go round without them just for the sake of vanity?
Absolutely.
Here you go, Alice. Put on your eyeglasses. You're among friends.
They are truly hideous.
Oh, more binoculars.
But you can't see a thing without him.
That is no justification for her to disfigure herself.
Oh, she's seen all she needs to see. Take them off at once, Alice, and promise to never don them again in this house.
Oh, Alice, do you wear those spectacles when you attend the theater?
I've never been to the theater.
Dear God, a life without theater is a life not worth living.
I feel the same way about sausages.
Alice, I would like to offer you 2 complimentary tickets to Daphne's Delight.
The poor girl has suffered enough.
When you tried to go down Mr. Pierce. Where were your spectacles?
In my purse.
Do you see that hole in the wall? Just there.
I can feel the bullet with the tip of my finger. It's still warm.
So I didn't hit my target?
Oh, not by a long chalk, dear.
Alice, I would suggest, and I say this against every instinct in my celebrated fashion sense, next time you intend to shoot someone, wear your spectacles. At least for the moment.
But I wanted so to kill him. I packed all my belongings to take with me to prison.
Mightn't you had some of your clothing shipped to your destination? That's what I do when I travel.
Oh, that remark betrays a profound misunderstanding of the criminal justice system.
So I am entirely innocent. Oh no!
Oh, Alice! I beg you to find a less piercing method of coping with your failures.
If you aren't his wife, why did you want him dead?
Being married isn't the only reason to want to kill someone.
Although it is certainly the most customary.
Wife or not, she failed utterly in her mission. If I were in her boots, I'd be devastated. Suicidal, even.
Oh no!
Eric, you mustn't criticize dear Alice. We've already had to witness the gruesome display of her wearing her spectacles. How much degradation can a woman tolerate in one evening?
Will you shut up? I behaved with malice. Alice, I beg your pardon.
Given that she botched her effort, shouldn't we assume natural causes?
Bridget has a heart set on solving a crime. We mustn't disappoint her.
A murderer is among us.
If I didn't kill Walter Pierce, who did, pray?
We are all suspects. How enthralling. No one has ever suspected me of even the slightest infraction.
Save the Daily Mail.
Must you torment me, Edward? I demand another drink.
Oh, anyone else? Victoria.
Never! Alcohol interferes with my brain waves. When I drink, I become entirely incoherent.
For our own safety, we must identify the culprit before he or she strikes again.
And the room is bristling with corpses.
Tonight, however, I shall have a double martini. This is a special occasion.
That's a queer way to put it.
I will not be near a dead body any longer. His posture is entirely unsuitable.
Oh, one thing we've learned this evening, death is detrimental to boys of any sort.
Sure, set him up straight.
Take him away, Jack. He is boring me.
Where to?
The garden seems appropriate amongst the flowers.
The body won't be leaving this room. If you don't want to look at him, Jack, put him in a chair and turn him round and go easy, all right? Now,
All right, then.
be careful with him. I got his arm. Now, please, be careful.
Is there any... Get out of the way!
Victoria!
The dead man on me.
Oh, did you really think I planned that?
Be careful with him.
Is he gone?
He is upstage, as it were.
All right, lad, where were you at the time of the murder?
I was downstairs, whither you had assigned me.
Did you stay put in the cellar till you heard the shot?
Yes, and then I rushed up to see what had happened.
That's a bit wide of the truth, Eric. I saw you enter this room moments before the gunshot.
Out with it. What were you doing in here?
You wicked boy!
I left something and came to retrieve it.
Aha!
Political murders are so dreary. I prefer crimes of passion.
Isn't that the table knife I set next to Mr. Pierce's lettuce?
This knife couldn't cut anything.
Suggesting that Eric did not pierce Mr. Pierce.
Not with that knife, he didn't. You don't see any blood, do ya? Nonetheless, I won't be having any guest abscond with the cutlery.
But Eric, why did you return upstairs if it wasn't to murder Mr. Pierce?
Anyone notice that the bookshelf is a wee sparse?
The maid has a sixth sense!
Oh, my library, it's been purloined!
To the cellar, Jack, and confiscate with anything that don't belong.
Okie dokie.
Eric, after pedaling 35 miles, chasing Mr. Bennet around the garden, and residing amongst the root vegetables, I believe the time has come for you to bathe, as you have begun to emit a very curious odor.
None of the suspects will be drawn a bath till I discover who the killer is.
Nothing out of the ordinary down there, Bridget, except for this.
Gertrude Lawrence! She's an enchantress!
Oh, as a matter of fact, Miss Lawrence is a rabid capitalist who demands exorbitant fees for her West End appearances. And what's worse, she demands rewrites.
She deserves all the world has to offer.
I am thoroughly baffled. Miss Lawrence appears in exactly the type of plays you insist I cease to write.
Edward, how dare you secret away pictures of that minx in my home? And as for you, you degenerate, the time has come for you to return to the asylum. I shall ring them up at once.
The line's been severed, Mum.
Gertrude Lawrence is a goddess. May she bathe in champagne and feast on caviar and slumber on sable for all of eternity.
Unyielding political convictions. Ha!
Nothing a man won't do for the love of a lass.
And alas for a man.
Eric, I saw you cross center stage to the couch when you entered the room.
What do you say to that? Were you doing harm to Mr. Pierce?
Not at all. I had to make sure he was asleep. If he had seen me with the picture book, I'd have been mortified.
Oh, and did you ever plan to return the book to where it belonged or make off with it?
I intended to spend a quiet evening alone, Miss Lawrence and I, until she ruined it.
And what were you fixing to do with the knife, lad?
I was hoping to find something to eat, a turnip perhaps.
This investigation is becoming increasingly banal.
Indeed. All we have thus far is a deluded socialist harboring secret desires for an overpraised ham and a half-blind teetotaler showing up out of nowhere with a hideous handbag.
We've only just begun. Where were you, Miss Van Roth, when you heard the shot?
She was in my boudoir with me. She's exonerated from guilt.
And when you were in the kitchen preparing the lettuce?
I was in the room at the time, and though she's demonstrably capable of heinous behavior, Miss Von Rath was not present.
Van Roth!
Oh,
A double martini, Edward.
Victoria, darling, at what point do you become incoherent?
I'm not sure. I'm incoherent when it happens.
Did anyone see Miss Van Roth fall in her grand exit up the stairs?
Not I.
All right, then. For now. Where were you, Mr. B, when you heard the pistol shot?
I was having a bath.
Like he said.
I heard the water running.
Yet your head is still greased all over with slickum.
Bridget, I used precisely the right amount of hair tonic.
I fail to see what the amount of brilliantine Mr. Bennet applies has to do with the investigation.
Aye, he ran a bath but didn't take one. Very fishy, Mr. B.
All right, Bridget, you found me out. I confess as I stand among you that I remain soiled from the events of the day.
But why draw a bath when one has no intention of bathing?
So he could use himself as an alibi, but that head full of grease gave him away.
Bridget, I would sooner be drawn and quartered than suffer any further abuse regarding my grooming habits.
Did you know that air tonic's made of petroleum? If you're motoring about and running low on petrol, but you go a bull on you, just take it, pour it in the tank, and vroom, you're off.
I'll make note of that, Jack. Now, may we quit the topic of hair care?
The innocent do not require alibis, Mr. Bennet.
Are you guilty, Edward?
Mr. B, why were you peering down when Eric ventured up from below?
How could you know that?
Himself said as much. All of you heard him. And when you arrived in Cookham, why were you fiddling with the bottles on the bar trolley?
I was entirely alone at the time.
The maid is telepathic!
From the kitchen, I spied you opening something from a vial and empty it into a bottle.
Edward, I cannot express my gratitude to you at this moment. I thought our passion was extinct, only to find out that you have poisoned a man out of love for me. I promise to visit you every day in prison wearing a black Schipperelli hat with a sheer veil.
Don't lift your hopes, Mrs. B. Mr. Bennet didn't kill anyone.
I am bitterly disillusioned. I demand another cocktail at once.
Anyone else?
I will not imbibe another drop until the maid reveals the exact bottle into which Edward emptied his vial.
'Twas the Scotch.
A double martini.
But I saw Walter Pierce pour a drink from that bottle and quaff it down.
'Twasn't poison, Mr. B poured in. 'Twas a wee bit of sleeping draught. I recognized the vial.
Is this so, Edward?
Did you intend to put all of your guests into a coma?
Oh, I had suspected that Sorrel would be spending the weekend with the remains. I wanted to make sure at least one of them was sedated.
The thought of me and Walter Pierce locked in an embrace was so traumatic, that you had to tranquilize him?
Actually, it was you I had hoped to put under. I thought it'd be amusing if after a few drinks, Walter found you snoring like a bulldog.
I do not snore. I have never snored a day in my life.
Beg pardon, Miss B, but you're so loud I can hear you all the way outside.
Shatters the window pane, she does.
Your sleeping is the precise reason I took up drafts in the first place.
I had no idea when we began this investigation that it would stoop to the level of malicious personal attacks.
I'll admit that the deafening roar you make is accompanied by a slight whistle, which I find utterly enchanting.
Thank you, darling. Alice, sit by me, will you? Reluctant as I am to hurl you into the void, you must relocate.
The list of suspects is diminishing.
And the tension mounts.
Frequently with interruptions.
I've been traveling all day. Is there anything to eat? Scones, perhaps?
Nothing but a tin of sardines and a wee bit of lettuce.
Oh, don't, Jack!
Why not, Miss B?
On account of the poisonous herbs?
This maid is paranormal. I must drink.
Are you suggesting that Sorrel Bennett put poisonous herbs in the salad? What kind of home is this?
My attempt to shoot Mr. Pierce turns out to have been only one of many violations perpetrated this evening.
I saw Sorrel serve that salad to Walter Pierce, and I watched as he consumed it. Sorrel Bennett is the murderer.
Murderess, if you please.
Mrs. Bennett, you are the last person I would have suspected.
Oh, very rude. Apparently no one has ever thought me to be even the slightest threat. Well, now you are all the wiser. I am a murderess. I killed Walter Pierce with garden greens. Bravo!
Well, good job, Miss B.
Murder by roughage.
Must you mock me, Edward? At least I accomplished my mission. You couldn't even medicate me into an afternoon nap.
Not so fast, Mrs. B. All the herbs you gathered weren't poison, ma'am.
Of course they were. There was Black Nightingale and Hemlock and me and...
You mean you?
Yes. I harvested them.
Along with arugula and mustard greens and watercress.
But Bridget, I heard you identify each herb alphabetically as poisonous.
Heard you myself, love.
'Tis true, but 'twas a wee lie, you see.
Why on earth would you attempt to mislead us? We are your employers.
You expect that to inoculate you? A couple that sullies their liquor and tosses poisonous salads?
Jack spilled the beans about the big raw that who you had in town.
It's true, I cannot tell a lie.
Then Mr. B arrives and is fiddling with the bottles on the bar trolley. Next comes Mrs. B with a basket of poisonous herbs. So I perjured myself and claimed all of the herbs were poisonous. Then I threw away all of the poisonous herbs. Very naughty of you, Mrs. B.
This weekend is a catastrophe. First I invite the wrong man, and while the rest of us starve, he enjoys a delicious salad.
Oh, did you seriously intend to do away with me, Sorrel?
Truth be told, I didn't think that any of the greens would prove to be fatal. I just hoped to make you violently ill.
Oh, that's very kind.
Beg pardon, Miss B, but you could never poison anyone. You're too batty.
Which implies, by process of elimination, that Jack is the murderer.
Jack?
This is no time for euphoria, Victoria.
Oh, I say, Eric, brilliant.
Much obliged, Mr. Bennett.
She's all tanked up.
Miss Van Roth, how's it that when I turned on the lights you were standing at the front door?
Bridget, this investigation is becoming increasingly tedious. We are all utterly exhausted.
What are you trying to hide, Mrs. B?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
That line reading was utterly unconvincing.
I'm not performing in one of your plays, Edward.
Oh, I'm beginning to think you could be.
Miss Van Roth, where's your scarf?
In my bedroom.
Sorrel, our friendship is boundless, cosmic, but I will not permit you to prevaricate on my behalf. A double martini, Edward. Maid, here is the intelligence you crave. Sorrel implored me not to leave her room. She knew whither I was bound.
Victoria, you mustn't reveal all your secrets.
Make it a triple, Edward, and I will divulge everything.
Oh, there's no such thing as a triple.
Then 2 doubles at once. The sooner she becomes comatose, the better.
I came down the stairs, through this room, and hurried outside.
Oh, out of doors, but nature goes against your very nature.
I couldn't wait any longer. I had to see Jack.
He is my boyfriend!
Jack!
You're joking!
Victoria, I am livid. I struggled these many months to keep your love affair quiet, only to have you broadcast it to everyone in a drunken stupor.
I am mad about that boy. I will shout it from the rooftops. Oh no! Corroborate, Jack.
It's true. I met Victoria when I was motoring her home from one of the Bennett's receptions. She was working in Clay at the time and asked me to pose for her.
Tell me I kept her skivvies on, lad.
Stripped down all the way.
Jack has an extraordinary physique. The sculpture is on display on my studio, and it electrifies all who see it. But nobody knows that it's the Bennett chauffeur.
That's because it looks like my Uncle Bob after he got run down by a lorry.
Physiques are not meant for public display.
From that night on, our love was uninhibited.
Lust, you mean?
Oh, that too. Together we explored the depths and the heights. We were fervent, fanatical.
Oh, so you came to Cookham for further exploration of Jack's physique and not to console my wife at all?
Of course, I knew from the very beginning, but it's so kind of you to care, darling.
Without Jack, I am an empty shell, a husk, a carcass.
While intriguing from a class perspective, what does this forbidden love affair have to do with the murder of Walter Pierce?
Do you love her, Jack?
Not now, Alice.
Tell me if you love her. I must know.
Who are you, woman?
Alice, is it absolutely necessary for you to sport your spectacles right now?
It is essential. I must look Jack in the eye.
Are you from Kent, dearie?
However, did you know?
So you're Jack's hometown lass.
We've been sweethearts since the age of 10, haven't we, Jack?
That's so romantic. You came all the way to Cookham to visit your Romeo?
Time was when Jack would come to Kent every month, but his visits have become less frequent of late.
Oh, Edward, how I long for our starry-eyed youth.
As we lurch into bleary-eyed middle age.
Jack! You have annihilated me.
It's me he loves. Tell them, Jack.
I told you, lad. Too many lasses. That's asking for trouble.
There are more? Am I part of a menagerie?
No, Jack, no. Say it isn't so.
It's true. I cannot tell a lie. I've had plenty of women. Girl in every port. It's just me nature. That's why I'm a single man like I told you, Mr. B. But I respect the ladies. And I ain't never told a single one that they was the only one.
I am reduced to nothingness. Oblivion.
And I am thoroughly confused. Alice, if you traveled to Cookham to see Jack, why did you try to gun down Walter Pierce?
I felt I must do something to earn back Jack's love. Mr. Pierce was not a good man. He did a terrible thing.
Are you in service to him, dearie?
Have been these 15 years.
The maid is omniscient. I surrender. Jack, I vowed to do anything for you, and I have kept my promise.
You've broken my heart, Jack. Look at me.
Sorry, darling. I was aiming for him.
How is she, lad?
Is she dead?
She's not dead, just fainted.
And Victoria?
Dead! Drunk.
Jack, is that you?
None other, love.
What has happened?
You've been shot, lass, but it's just a graze.
Oh dear. Perhaps I should dress my wound. Might I use the loo?
What in heaven's name is going on here?
The plot has thickened considerably.
It's much more compelling than any of your recent efforts.
I demand to know who killed Walter Pierce.
It's time for me to have me say. Walter's folks grew up on a fine estate in Kent. After me dad died in the war, Mum moved us down from the East End to be in service to the Pierces. Alice and her mum worked for him too. Walter had a weakness for the ladies, he did, and for drink. One night he comes home stinking to the gills and lost his balance on the way up to his room and pushed me mum down the stairs. Not on purpose. But the poor dear never recovered.
Jack.
The Pierces hushed up the entire affair, didn't want to get out that their fine young son was to blame. They pushed a few quid me way in order to keep me quiet. But Walter never looked me in the eyes again. I moved back to London when I got older and tried to push it out of me mind. Took a job here and there, and that's when I came into service for you, Mr. B. But no matter what I did, I could not bury my loathing for Walter Pierce. And then this very day, Miss B says she invited the man who caused the death of me own mum.
Is this a confession? Did you murder Walter Pierce out of revenge?
You told Miss Van Roth what Walter had done to your mom, am I right, Jack?
On the way back from the station.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats. I have the answer you have all been waiting for.
Ooh.
'Twas Miss Victoria Van Roth who murdered Walter Pierce.
Victoria?
Strangled him with her scarf, she did. There are red marks all round his neck to prove it.
Bridget, you don't...
I know, lad. Miss Van Roth didn't let you in on what she was planning. She crept down to this room, wrapped her scarf round his neck, and choked the life out of him. And she ran outside to tell you. Must have hidden the scarf somewhere out there.
It's in the Bentley.
Well, I, for one, am not surprised.
My dearest friend is a murderess. I always knew she was capable of great achievements.
Oh, pity she's immobilized and unable to receive your acclaim.
You are both utterly delusional.
Yes, Eric, we know. Isn't it marvelous?
Jack, I am astonished that two women worlds apart would go to such great lengths for your love.
Always had a way with the ladies, Jack has.
I am sorely envious. Cyril, would you ever kill a man on my behalf?
I limit my brutality to hurling the occasional vase.
An idea has been stirring, prompted by tonight's events. I believe I have the play.
Has this weekend served as inspiration?
I believe it has.
Then murder and all, it was entirely worthwhile.
I find it extremely distasteful for you to carry on about your careers whilst the body of your strangled guest has yet to be removed.
Need I remind you that not one of these guests was invited?
Come, Cyril, I will tell you all from the very first scene where the maid and the chauffeur engage in seemingly idle banter that in turn holds the key to the entire plot. It shall be called Death by Design.
Tell me, darling, am I murdered or am I the murderess?
Oh, you, my dear, will suffer a death the likes of which has never before been seen on a London stage.
I am over the moon. I never doubted you for a moment, darling.
Oh, there's my girl.
I am convinced that Edward and Sorrel Bennett are the most narcissistic, egotistical, self-absorbed couple in all of England. I shall have no more part of it.
Pushing off, then.
I will bicycle back to London at once.
Wait till daylight, lad.
I shall not stay here for one more moment. I say, it's high time you notify an inspector.
Doesn't look like anybody will be leaving anytime soon. Ah, here's the picture book, lad. Mrs. B would want you to take it.
Seeing as Walter Pierce won't be needing it, may I spend the evening in the Caligula room?
Bridget, I'm an honest man. I'd never try to lie to you or deceive you.
The marks on Walter Pierce's neck were made by a strong man's hands.
As soon as he was alone, I crept in and snapped his neck in one quick move.
Miss Van Roth had no idea what you'd done when she wrapped her scarf around him.
After I told her about Walter and me, Mum, she said, I'll take care of it. I had no idea she had any intention of trying to finish him off.
I'm through with the tittle-tattle. Had enough of the murder business I have.
Well, I best be calling a doctor and Inspector Benson then.
Not with that telephone you want.
Who was it that severed the wire in? Bridget!
I wanted to solve a crime, Jack, all on me own.
But it's not proper for Victoria to get the blame for something I done.
She won't, Jack. Depend on it.
Why not? What do you mean?
My apologies, Jack. I've caused you so much trouble tonight.
It's all right, Alice. I know what you did. Well, what you tried to do. You did for me.
You acted out of true love, dearie. A Karen last year.
Whatever's become of my handbag and spectacles?
Here they are, right here. You look lovely.
Why don't you spend the night with us here in Cookham, Alice? There's a spare room.
That's awfully kind.
Here, I'll show you to it.
Rise and shine, Mr. Pierce.
Oh, what time is it?
Past your bedtime.
Was I napping? I feel surprisingly well rested.
You missed all the excitement.
I would like a lift to the station at once.
I told you, lad, the last train left hours ago. and the Caligula room is occupied. You'll have to spend the night in the root cellar. It's through there.
Oh, you are the most impudent maid in the entire history of the British Empire.
Much obliged, sir.
Wall is resurrected.
Mr. Pierce! You're alive!
Of course I'm alive. And I consider myself lucky having spent the evening with such depraved company.
You have no idea how lucky you are, sir.
Bridget, you knew he was alive all along, didn't you? Oh, you wily devil, you!
Much for coming out tonight. There are a few of us who would just like to take a moment to thank our wonderful directors, Mr. Jimmy Miller and Miss Mari Doyle.
It's been such an incredible experience working on this show with them. They're great directors, and it's been awesome to watch how much the actors grow under the direction. So, for this show, we got the book Clue the Board Game, the original murder mystery, and some flowers and cards from the crew heads. So.
Make it into a drinking game.
Well, thank you all so much for coming out to our closing night. Sound, play us off.